I ain't afraid of no ghosts. But are you? Hello everyone and welcome back to Married with Comics. I'm your host Laura. Now first things first, just wanted to give a big shout out and thank you all so much for participating and being there on our 500 subscriber giveaway live show. It was a ton of fun and it was a great opportunity to talk to you all. We do have two big upcoming events. So first, we're going to be on BJ Kix's live show. It's his Thursday hangout, and we'll be talking about Philadelphia. So tune in and hear a couple different perspectives on the same story. Secondly, we have issued the ultimate challenge and said if we make it to 1,000 subscribers by October 29th, when we go live at 7 p.m. that night, we will do a live giveaway. But it won't just be any normal comic book, it will be a slab. And I can guarantee it'll be a high grade and it will be something that you want. The question is, what will it be? But you'll just have to help us get to 1,000 subscribers. So please continue to like, share, comment on these videos, and certainly subscribe to this channel because I just checked yesterday and 50% of the people watching these videos are still not subscribed to the channel yet. So please subscribe, it really helps us in the long run, and I really appreciate all of your support. Now, we have already started our 31 comics of Halloween with vampires, we've talked about demons, and now it's time to talk about ghost stories. Now, the cool thing with each of these categories is that even though it still has a kind of an overall theme of ghosts, each one of the titles is very, very different. So, first one we're going to start with is Ghosted. This is a multi-part series, however, I only read volume 1. It's written by Joshua Williamson, who many of you will recognize that name because he is about to take over the run of Batman after James Tynion's run is finished. This story is best described as Ghost Hunters meets Ocean's 11. So at the very beginning of this story, our criminal mastermind is rotting away in prison, and then suddenly all these people are getting killed and we meet the coolest character introduction that I think I've seen in quite a while, Anderson Lee. I'm showing it to you over here because I can try and describe it, but I won't do it any justice. All I'll say is as soon as she kind of appeared on the page, I was like, hell yes. So she then, of course, whisks away our mastermind, and he is then hired by someone with a ridiculous amount of money to kidnap a ghost and deliver it in exchange for funds. The only thing that the mastermind asks in exchange is he wants to put together his own team. So then you get this Ocean's 11-esque type team where you have the thief, you have the skeptic, you have the, seance communicator with the spirits type of characters. And they're all now entering this haunted house. And it definitely gets very interesting as we sort of go along, but then you get some really cool kind of plot twists as you find out what ghost they're supposed to be stealing, why, start kind of unearthing some more information, and you get some really cool twists in this story. It was a really fun adventure. This has some good moments and some good scares in it, but overall, it wasn't to the point that I was desperate to grab the next volume. I'm still very interested in the character, and I'm curious what the next story is going to be, and I'm also wondering if it'll be like Lazarus, where I'll grab the next one and I will change my opinion, and suddenly, next time we're talking about Ghosted, I'll be raving about how amazing the story kind of jumped from a haunted tale to the next type of story. If you're just looking for a really fun haunted read, I definitely recommend this. I did like kind of the Ocean's 11 twist to it, that it wasn't just a straightforward walk into a haunted house and get out of it alive. But I did like the idea of having to try and piece together how do you kidnap a ghost. Really cool, fun characters, and a really fun ghost story. Locke and Key is written by Joe Hill. Now, Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King. Joe Hill does an extraordinary job with so many of his different series, but I will say this is definitely my favorite. I didn't honestly know what to expect, but when Tarney over at Ultimate Comics says that it is his favorite horror title, I certainly sit up, take notice, and I grabbed the series. I read this series in exactly 6 days because there are 6 issues, and I went through one book every single day because I had to force myself to actually do something else than finish this entire series in one sitting. It was that good. Before I had actually picked up this title, part of my apprehension was the artwork. The artwork is a little bit more cartoon-like, and I wasn't sure, what kind of horror title we were really getting with this, and I wasn't really sure I was going to get into all these keys and what is it really about. Then I read the very first kind of section, preview that's available online, and you start seeing the story unfold of the death of these children's father. When you see that death kind of described on Netflix, it is tragic, but in this story, you get a very different perspective because you see how the older son hated their summer vacation, wanted nothing more than to leave and to go be with his friends, and was resenting being stuck there. That resentment was very specifically aimed at his father. And then this event takes place where you have 2 young boys who invite themselves into this house with the intent of killing Mr. Locke. However, the rest of the family is still home. The children approach the house and they hear the first gunshot. And immediately everyone kind of jumps to action. So you have the daughter who is hiding with the young boy, Bodhi, and holding him tightly, just trying to make as little noise as humanly possible to keep him safe. The oldest son, who is trying to find some way to get into the house to then save his father. And you find out at the very last moment that one of these criminals knew one of the sons. It's such a graphic moment. And it sets the tone for this story that even though the art is very simplistic in a lot of ways, the storyline will hit you between the eyes on several moments. And there's one other plot twist that you eventually get towards the end of Volume 1 regarding the death of the father that makes you sit there and say, this is not just a normal story of dad dies and now we get to reinvent ourselves. Instead, this is a truly just gripping story and very real, gritty characters. And then you start seeing some of the complexities come out. This series focuses in on the Keyhouse, which, as soon as Mr. Locke passes away, Mrs. Locke and all 3 children drive across the country and they move to Keyhouse, which is, of course, the house that Mr. Locke grew up in. The reason that I put this under a ghost story is because the very first key that they find is a magical key. Each one of these keys does something special. So sometimes it will open a door, but it's not always just a door. A lot of times the door will do something special. So for instance, the door in Volume 1 allows you to pass through it, but when you pass through it, your body dies, but you immediately become a ghost. And then you can travel around to anyone, see anything, and then you come back, kind of pick back up your body and go through the door again. Close it and you're done. Each one of these books focuses in on a different key, and you'll see it kind of featured on the different covers. The thing that's really, really fun is technically, yes, there are 6 keys that are on the cover, or 6 keys that are sort of the main keys that are being unlocked in this series. However, each volume ends up having maybe 3 or 4 different keys that are also unlocked or discovered during that volume. So what they do is they put a map at the back of the book that as the characters find another key or discover what it does, then the description will be added into that kind of map of keys. And towards the end, I mean, it's pretty extensive, but it's really cool, the extent of things that those keys can do and how they're made. The other thing that I really, really liked about this series is the evil force that is kind of working against them in this series. At the very beginning, this creature's kind of stuck at the bottom of a well, trapped. And the young son, Bodhi, thinks that this is just an echo, just a simple voice at the bottom of a well. And then he finds out that the voice has a name, has a face, and has a purpose. And this echo, as he keeps calling it at the beginning, is always kind of luring him and trying to get him to do certain things. And in the end, what that echo wants is to escape. As you see this character escape, because it happens at the end of Volume 1, and then you start seeing some of the power and capabilities that that character has, this character does more than just manipulate. There's a lot of power, intention, and capability behind that one character, which is another reason, as the series goes along, that you're just really excited to see what happens next. Overall, I honestly can't recommend Locke and Key enough. It is one of my top 10 favorite comics that I've ever read. I don't just grade comics on how quickly I read them, but for me, it's all about, yes, it's the journey, as you're going through the storyline, but I've never read anything like this before. It is a very unique series because of those different keys, because of the adventures that these children are going on, and then you have the development of the different characters and how they deal with that trauma of that very first event with their father. And then they're either working together to discover some of the keys, working against each other to try and protect this person from that. It gets very interesting, and it's a very adult-like series. It's also why I couldn't even make it through the first episode of Locke and Key on Netflix. I appreciate that they did it so that way they could reach a broader audience, and I know some people love the Netflix series. I started with the book, and the book has such a great dark tone to it that making it a cutesy storyline and more of a love story, and taking some of my absolute favorite characters and either combining them, removing them, it lost a lot of that original kind of flair of the story. Normally, I buy Volume 1, I try it, and if I like it well enough, I get the rest of the series. This is one that if you go up online and you check out the preview, first couple pages of the series, and if it pulls you in just enough that you're intrigued, go ahead and get the full series. I normally never ever say that, but this is one of those that you will finish Volume 1 and you will be dying for Volume 2, and there will be nothing that stops you before you get to the rest of the series. So save yourself and your sanity, get the whole thing. So my last title is my Comic-Con find, which is Infidel. It is written by that person, and the art is done by Aaron Campbell. I was able to meet Aaron Campbell at Comic-Con, and he signed my book, which is fantastic. I grabbed this title because the artwork intrigued me. I definitely appreciate the extra ad that says that this is one of NPR's top 100 horror titles of all time. And the concept sounded pretty interesting. So I'm like, let's give it a try. The story starts with originally the same kind of horror concept that we've all read before when we're dealing with a ghost story. So we have our main character, Aisha, who is asleep. She wakes up in the middle of the night and she senses this presence behind her in bed, turns and sees that it's this evil spirit. And she starts trying to fight away and escape the evil spirit. And at the very last minute before it can harm her, she wakes up. And she realizes it was just a horrible dream, but she looks at her nightstand where there should be a full glass of water, and instead that glass of water is shattered upon the floor. And we get to this moment where all these nightmares keep happening. She can't get a full night's rest. And suddenly these evil spirits start appearing not just in her dreams, but in her day-to-day life. And it seems like when she's interacting with certain people, she's seeing these evil spirits more often. And as she's trying to defend and as she's trying to escape them, suddenly this horrible situation happens where she's trying to escape one of the evil spirits, and she tries pushing them away, and instead she pushes someone down a set of stairs, puts them in a coma. And on top of it, she's now hospitalized. The doctors have no idea what's happened to her or what the problem is. All we know is everything's come to a head as of this moment. And her best friend is the one who steps in and tries to get to the bottom of these evil spirits and what's actually happening to her best friend, because she starts seeing the same evil spirits while she's wide awake as well. The other essential part of this storyline is that our main character is a Muslim woman. And then you also have the neighbors. The neighbors know that she wears a burqa, and they know that she's Muslim, and there's a lot of people who either refuse to talk to her, act incredibly rudely, avoid her, or they are friendly but only far enough that they can keep a very close eye on her. There are people who assume that because she's Muslim, she never had good intentions in the first place, and they were right to have ignored her. Then you have the other half of the people who saw what really happened and say, no, I watched her push that person down the stairs, which technically is true. Then you have the other people who are saying, no, you're only assuming that she pushed that person down the stairs because she's Muslim, and calling them the racist. You have people who are trying to not be racist, but then also are being so conscientious of their anti-racism that they are in turn still being racist. And you have these little teeny tiny subtle moments, like one of the female characters in the storyline. She's on the subway, and then she sees a black man, and she goes from having her purse beside her to her purse is now in her lap, and she's got a very tight grip on it. These little teeny tiny moments that mean so much and hit you between the eyes and make you question are why this story is so well done. There's a point at the end in the afterword where Jeff Lemire came to the exact same conclusion that I did. It's a fantastic horror title. It's a great ghost story. I loved the ending. I loved the artwork. It's gorgeous. But that racism, politically motivated part of this story shouldn't work, because it is so hard to do. And the fact that it works, I still can't put my finger on the reason why it works so well and why other titles didn't. All I can tell you is that this is a story that has a political side to it because it is based in our reality today. But that's the point, is that you can read this regardless of your political motivation, and you can still get something from this title without feeling like you're being singled out. Instead, this is a story that understands the political realm that you're in today when you take a Muslim woman in the United States and you make her your main character. And yes, we have this great horror story that's going on at the same time, but you also look at what does that mean for that Muslim woman, and what does that mean for everyone else around you? And why is this ghost story taking place in this building? And why is it picking the people that it is? It's incredibly well done. So if you get a chance, grab Infidel. So I had a couple other ghost stories that I ended up cutting from this video because I had a feeling I was going to go a little bit long on those two titles. But my question for you all is, do you have any ghost story comics that you happen to like? Or are some of these ghost stories, they're good but not great? I love Ghostbusters, but I haven't read any Ghostbuster comics. Have any of you? And if so, is there one that you recommend that I try in time for next year? So this is Laura from Married with Comics, and I will talk to you all again very soon with our next topic in our 31 Comics of Halloween. Have a great day, everyone. you.